Expelliarmus. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, the second film in the Harry Potter film series, first released in 2002 and directed by Chris Columbus. Now, once again, this was another one that I had on VHS tape growing up, and I do remember watching quite fondly. It, while Chris Columbus would exit the series after this film, eventually handing over to Alfonso Cuarón for the third film, this feels like the right step after Philosopher's Stone. This still feels distinctly fills in his vision. It still feels magical but also whimsical, and it does very well for itself. Once again, I'm not going to go over the plot. You know it off by heart. You know it back to back, inside out, and all the rest of it. But this one does take a few more steps than the previous one did, as well as introducing a few new characters, played by the likes of Toby Jones, Mark Williams, Jason Isaacs, Kenneth Branagh, and Gemma Jones. But once again, there were a few elements that were either filmed and then just not put in, or certain things that happened in the book that ultimately didn't make the cut in terms of the film. For ones that were filmed but sadly never got left on the cutting room floor, you got Harry witnessing Lucius and Draco dropping off some items in Borgin and Burke's when he gets kind of lost in Nocturne Alley. When he kind of gets lost in there, witnesses them, and then they're ultimately leaving them there because members of the ministry are starting to perform raids on their houses. So they kind of want to get rid of anything that may not be seen in quite so good a light. There's also Harry, once they get to school, Harry discovering that Filch has a quick spell certificate. Filch is ultimately a squib, but he is trying to learn magic, which was a deleted scene in there, which you can check out. There's also the setup for Justin Finch Fletchley in the Defence Club when Harry has a brief interaction with him. And there's also a point nearer to Christmas when Harry says, well, what if I am just evil and doing these things without realising it? And Hermione's like, no, we can use the Polyjuice Potion to find out for sure. Speaking of the Polyjuice Potion, that's another item that kind of got cut short, because in terms of the book, Polyjuice Potion is actually the Polyjuice Potion segment is actually a lot more complicated. They can't just, in the film they just slip out the book of most potent potions and get it from there. In the book, most potent potions is a book in the restricted section, so they have to get a staff member's permission in order to check it out, which they eventually get from Gilderoy Lockhart. Which, okay, that's an item that was cut. It may slow down the plot slightly, but you get the idea. And the other parts of the Polyjuice Potion that was probably cut out for time is they find the Polyjuice Potion is actually very complicated and does require several ingredients that they can get in the student stores, but also ones that are only available in the teachers' stores. And in order to do this, they have to perform a raid. If Hermione gets caught, no way, sir. If Harry and Ron get caught, they're already in trouble. So what they do is Harry secretly sets off a filibuster firework in a potions lesson, which ends up kind of exploding inside of a cauldron containing swelling solution. And then while everyone's kind of distracted with that, Hermione slips out the room in order to get the necessary ingredients. I can see why it was cut. I mean, it may have slowed down the pacing, but as well, do you not want to kind of see? I mean, you get to see Tom Felton with a nose the size of a watermelon, and Gregory Goyle's character with eyes the size of dinner plates. To which I think that would be pretty humorous. I don't know how they would have managed it, but it's something that was in the book that sounds quite fun, but I can see ultimately why it wouldn't. Now, this was also the final appearance of Richard Harris as Professor Dumbledore, who sadly passed away in between the two films of Chamber of Secrets and Prison of Azkaban, and would subsequently be replaced by Michael Gambon in The Prison of Azkaban. But yeah, I mean, once again, he does do the kind of wise person who seems like he would never raise his voice at Harry, and you do feel safe around him. Although, once again, I think you do feel kind of sadness and worry with him, because there's a specific scene where Harry is sent, after they find Justin Finch Fletchley and Nearly Headless Nick petrified, Harry is sent to Dumbledore. And when Dumbledore asks him if he's got anything to tell him, Harry's like, "No, sir, nothing." And Dumbledore says, "Very well then, off you go." And you feel like, "Oh, okay, that sounds about right." But then when you see the diary scene with Tom Riddle and he does effectively the same thing, then you start to think, "Oh," and start to realize maybe there is more to this than meets the eye. The other last piece or deleted part that I kind of want to talk to about is the ending, because in possibly to keep things flowing, the ending of the film, they only really showed three aspects that were in the book. Hermione returning and saying to Harry, "You solved it, well done." Hagrid's return, which happens at the climax of the film, and Dumbledore announcing the exams had been cancelled. Which is, that's the big wrap up, yay, everyone's happy. And pretty much, yeah, that's all you had to include. But there are parts of the final chapter that I think, hey, you could have put in there, we could have had a lot more fun with. For example, as well as Hermione, Hagrid, and the cancelled exams, there's also Justin Finch Fletchley coming over from the Hufflepuff table to apologise to Harry for suspecting him. There's Dumbledore announcing that Lockhart's had to go away for a while to get his memory back, and of course Harry and Ron's awards for services to the school, which ends up winning enough house points to secure the House Cup for another year. Which, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know they want to keep things flowing, and ultimately things will have to be cut here and there, but I do kind of feel you could have probably squeezed that all in and just made us all feel really lovely. They also cut out entirely Penelope Clearwater, Percy's girlfriend, but you know she wasn't necessarily that integral to the plot. But actually, the other thing, they do change a few things, which, okay, I can kind of understand why. For example, there's no mention of the Death Day party, which, when the blood writing is originally discovered on the walls, with Harry and Hermione and Ron close by it. In the book, they had been attending Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day party after feeling sorry for him once again being rejected from the Headless Hunt. So they're kind of there, but then when Snape asks, "Why didn't you come back to dinner afterwards?" It's like, well, we were on our way here and then we discovered this. Whereas in the film, once they're discovered, Snape's like, "Why did you come to dinner?" And Lockhart's like, "Oh, he was serving detention with me." Which, once again, I can understand why the Death Day party was cut, but at the same time, I think it could have been a rather nice scene. Rather atmospheric and possibly gothic. So like with Philosopher's Stone, a lot of stuff was cut from the film or not included, not filmed. But once again, Chamber of Secrets is just one of those films that you just watch it and you feel lovely. You know what? That's what Harry Potter does best. Anyway, that's the second film down on my Harry Potter rewatch or retrospective. Can't wait to get to Prisoner of Azkaban, but when I do, I'll let you know. Anyway, until then, see ya.